Now let's welcome Ms. Saloni Sachdeva Michael, India Clean Energy Transition Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. Saloni Sachdeva Michael is an energy specialist, India Clean Energy Transition at IFA, specializing in advancing India's clean energy transition through policy, technology, and financial strategies. She has collaborated with national and state level organizations, energy departments, distribution companies, and think tanks to gain insights into the Indian power sector. A German chancellor, fellow with expertise in circular decarbonization, holds a master's degree in renewable energy engineering and management from Terry School of Advanced Studies and has an electrical engineering background. She has over 7 years of experience in philanthropic sector and has worked with SSEF to promote renewable energy and energy access in India. Ms. Saloni will present a talk on renewable energy evolution. So let's welcome Ms. Saloni.
As we all know that India has emerged as a global champion in adopting renewable energy. And if you look at the global stats, we have risen from the 13th to the fifth largest economy now. And the previous speakers have targeted and mentioned about the net zero emissions by 2070. But if we look at the supply side, we are the third largest electricity producers with approximately, if I remember correctly, 1700 terawatt of hours of power that was produced in just 2023. And on the demand side, we have been seeing that the country has been crossing all the evidences and breaking all the records in terms of the peak demand. In June 2023, the peak demand reached approximately 230 gigawatts, which was an increase of 3.4% from the 2022 levels. And a number of studies also estimate that this demand will grow at a rate of approximately 7% in the next 5 years. A number of reasons exist for the increase in demand, be it weather conditions, extreme hot, extreme cold. We have also seen that the new load like EV and industrial decarbonizations are adding to the load for the DISCOM and other, for in fact, a number of states. So how do we manage this load? In fact, undoubtedly, renewable energy will play a huge role in meeting its demand, and we have seen it in the last decade. If we go back few years in 2009 and 10, when the entire RE evolution was starting in India, we stood at a capacity of around 13 to 14 gigawatts for wind and almost nothing for solar. And today we stand at a capacity of 45 gigawatt for wind and 75 gigawatt for solar. So there has been a tremendous growth in the last decade, and which has been a good success for the country. And that's why it has been placed globally in terms of high RE leaders. But is that enough? Is that enough to meet the 500 gigawatt target that we have? In fact, if we do a back calculation of the kind of trajectory we need to follow to meet the 500 gigawatt target, we need to add 40 to 45 gigawatts every year starting 2023. And if you look at the addition that happened in 2023, it was just 134 gigawatts. So which is 66% less than the intended target of that particular year. So if we want to continue the entire RE evolution or the revolution that we have seen in the last decade, there are a number of steps that needs to be taken. My fellow panelists talked about a lot of right policy mandates that have existed. We have seen reduction in RE technology, and when I say RE technology, I'm including solar panels, be it batteries, and now electric vehicles and electrolyzers, though the cost of electrolyzers still need to come down even for storage, but there has been a declining progress. We have seen very new innovative business models that have come in the market. The central and the state governments have been making a lot of efforts in coming up with proactive policies to support RE deployment. Recently, Ministry of Power came up with the RPO trajectory till 2030 for the states also. We see a lot of focus on promoting decentralized renewable energy, be it just rooftop solar pumps and now photovoltaics also. So in spite of all of these policies and programs existing, I think there are still three buckets that we need to focus on. And I think as my fellow panelists and other experts in the sector, they might agree that they need further work in terms of reaching the 500 gigawatt target. So the three buckets that I will talk about now is first technology advancement and grid modernization. I think a very insightful presentation has already been given on technology advancement. We started back in, I think, 80s, 90s. The wind capacity started with 250 kilowatts, and now the plants are like 3 megawatt, 5 megawatt. So there has been a tremendous technology improvement. Even for solar panels, we have seen a efficiency gain of 3 to 4%. There has been focus on newer technologies, cost reduction, as I mentioned. And in terms of storage, I feel the biggest development and positive aspect was seen in the movement of tenders. Now we are moving away from plain vanilla projects to more of hybrid projects where wind, solar, and storage technologies are given, and now all the round the clock power also. And I think the beauty of these RTC tenders lie in the fact that they don't need to be present in one location. Wind can come from one sector, one particular state, solar can come from other state, and storage can be present in the third state. And this gives the required flexibility to the developers to participate in RTC tenders. And I think that has been a very good progress going forward. Second bucket that I would like to talk about and focus on is the role of states in accelerating the electricity transition. I think the fellow panelists gave an example of Karnataka. And at IEFA, we do an annual flagship report where we try to understand what has been the performance and progress of Indian states in terms of electricity transition. We release this report annually, and we have had amazing insights from all of this analysis. States like Karnataka, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, who have been forerunners in terms of installing renewable energy deployment, even though they are doing great, they have just utilized approximately 10 to 12% of their RE potential. So there is so much potential for these states to still become RE hubs, participate in greener market mechanisms. Because if you look at the power market in India, right now the contribution through power exchange is just 7 to 8%. So there is so much potential still existing for the states to act as export hubs, utilize their potential further, and then participate in greener market mechanisms like GDAM and GTAM. And going forward, we see that the state's participation and role in terms of electricity transition will be way as an important than it is right now. Last bucket that I would like to talk about is in terms of strengthening the renewable energy supply chain. I completely agree with the previous speaker around when we talk about even hydrogen or solar panels or batteries, and we want to focus on Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India, we still rely on a lot of global countries, especially China, in meeting our raw material requirements. If you look at global stats, 66% of the cobalt is still mined in Congo, and the mines are owned by China. Approximately 63% of the rare earth metals of the global requirement are still coming from China, and 55% of the global lithium requirement is met by Australia. And I was doing a study and looking at the Ministry of Commerce dashboard around import and export data set. India depends on these countries for 100% import dependence in terms for nickel, cobalt, and lithium for meeting the requirement of solar panel manufacturing, your lithium ion batteries, and electric vehicles. So that is the kind of import dependency that exists. And since while the previous speaker was speaking, I was trying to pull out some numbers. In the last 5 years, we contributed in terms of import, 53,000 tons of nickel oxides and hydroxides were imported from around 10 countries. And this attributed to around 700 crores rupees that was spent in just nickel oxide and hydroxide imports. So you can just see the kind of quantum and value we are spending in terms of import, and we need to reduce this import dependency. There's no argument about it. And I think the ministries are recognizing it. The Ministry of Mine recently came up with a regulation on an identified 30 critical minerals, which is inclusive of strategic minerals and critical minerals, strategic for defense usage and critical for electricity transition usage. And very recently, the Ministry of Mines also amended the MDMR, which is the Mines and Minerals Development Regulation, where the mining industries is now open to the private sector. And the reason that all of this is happening is because the country is now taking a pronged approach towards diversifying the supply chain. One, they want to have presence on global partnerships. For example, participation in the Mineral Security Partnership, being part of the EU Critical Mineral Club or the Quad, where India has a say around what our requirements are. Second, I think strategy we are taking up is in terms of strengthening and acquiring more international land mines. So as part of the Car Bill, which is again an initiative sought out by the Ministry of Coal and Ministry of Mines, we are trying to identify and acquire mines globally. So very recently, we signed MOU with Argentina. We're collaborating with Australia in terms of identifying mines abroad. A third strategy that we're doing is developing and strengthening our domestic mine ecosystem in India, where I talked about the opening up the mine sector to the private players, and also ensuring that auction identification and realization of the reserves and production of these critical minerals is happening by the Geological Survey of India. So we already saw two auctions of critical mineral blocks that happened in last 1 year. First one was 18 blocks, and the recent one a month back was for 20 blocks. So I believe these strategies add to the RE revolution in India, but there are still missing pieces in terms of, even if the mining is done, and mining will take like 10 years, what do we do in those 10 years? India has a huge potential of coming up as a refining and processing hub globally. So even the critical minerals are mined, they need to be refined and processed. So that is a huge potential that still India has. And second potential that we still sit on is on recyclability and end of life cycle of all of these minerals. Once the solar panels reach end of life cycle of 25 years, and batteries and storage by 7-8 years, there's a potential to reuse and recycle these and then add to the value chain of production cycles via the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. So I think if we move along these three buckets and have focused interventions, meeting the 500 gigawatt target, even surpassing it won't be a challenge for India.
Thank you, Ms. Saloni, for sharing your views on renewable energy evolution.